spiritual food for thought.
So at the moment, I just wanted to make an announcement and kind of share a little bit of my plan. We don't really know how the world's going to go, other than what's revealed in Scripture. But it seems that as time progresses, certain leisure, benefits and things that we normally enjoy now may become much more difficult in the future. Even this, being able just to hop on the internet, have power, have the internet, have Wi-Fi, have other things. We take it for granted, but there's no guarantee, which is one reason that I've really always appreciated books as well. And this update is actually going to be just sharing with you some of my plans. As you guys know, maybe from some of my stuff, I have a real desire to be able to be present in the life of my family, that when I rise up, when I lie down, when I walk by the way, and when I sit in my house, I'd be able to teach my children about God's ways, and that I'd be able to walk out a certain life with them. That, as I mentioned in my video, Generational Warfare, that if dad's at the office and mom's at the office and the kids are at school and we need two incomes because we've got so much debt, we aren't really free to even obey something as simple as kind of be with your children and teach them my ways in the way that I think we see actually revealed in Scripture. So that's been a driving force in my life for many years. And part of that then is going to be getting creative to do two things. Number one is to drop the cost of living. Because if we drop the cost of living, then we increase the quality of life. And the reason that we increase the quality of life is just simply that we need less money, therefore less time needs to be invested in seeking, earning money. And whatever we still need, the goal is to then put me in my house that I could earn this income from home. So whether it's just trying to raise our own food, avoiding debt, as God says when he lays out the blessings and the curses, this one's a curse. He says debt's a curse. He says the borrower's slave to the lender. Don't be unequally yoked together with non-believers. Owe no one anything but love. There's a lot of things that kind of come out if we actually look at it. Paying interest, paying usury is a curse. We're not supposed to do it, and we're also not supposed to charge our brother interest, But these days, it's kind of really lost on the modern Christian church, which is unfortunate. And in a lot of ways, as I mentioned before, too, we tend to be more citizens of this world, and then we're happen to be Christian, where we would identify ourselves as like an American Christian. Well, I'm a Christian first and foremost, or a believer first and foremost, and then I happen to be a member of whatever, living in whatever country I am, here would be an American. So I don't want to get those mixed up. So as I seek to use my freedom in the country which I've been given to obey God, a number of things come up, and that's why I'm talking about these 3 book releases. There's 4 actually that I have planned for this year. The first one is actually a 50-day end-time devotional. I think there's some big error that's presented within the common teachings of a lot of denominations and a lot of church buildings these days about what eschatology really, what the Bible really says about eschatology. And there's some things that people say, and they quote these verses, which in context, of course, have nothing to do with what they're actually talking about. And yet, eschatology is kind of one of those things that the average layman is often like, I don't really know. Maybe I should just leave it to the theologians and the pastors. Well, as far as modern theologians is concerned, I consider anyone who has thoughts about God to be a theologian. Now, they're not all accurate, but the thoughts that you're having about God would make you be a modern theologian. And it's good to think about things, especially what he says. So what I've done is I've tried to take a 50-day daily devotional and break down some things that God actually says to expose some of the falsehood and what others are teaching, and to give you a little better idea about what's going to go down, and then you can kind of at least prepare mentally for that. Because a lot of people aren't going to be able to be prepared mentally because stuff will be happening that, according to them, there's no way in the world should be happening to them. Moreover, it lets us do some things now, even in the physical world, that can allow us to be better set off, later. Of course, when we die, it's going to be better no matter what. But while we're here, let's use what we've got. So what I've done is just kind of sorted through some things. I did this myself, for myself first and foremost, but then as I was reasoning through it, I'm like, this is a very simple way to break it down. And just by opening, this is, day 14. And that's day 14. You got some of my words, some of God's words, and it just simply shares some verses and some food for thought, and then it makes a point at the end. And that's your whole day. And what I try to accomplish here is to equip just the average person to be able to just start small. Here's the foundation. You open that, you read that during your day, maybe even early, and then you think about it the rest of the day. Then you come back the next day, and you read a little bit more. This one's a little marked up because it was a proof copy. That's why it's got this across. But this is already available on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description. But I'll also link our online store that we set up through the Homesteaders Co-op. And I misordered it the first time. I used an expired credit card rather than the one that was valid, because that's the one I had on file, and I didn't catch my error. So it's taking me about an extra week to get these in hand. But I will be offering these in my online store too, where I should be able to charge people less while winding up with a greater percentage of my own than if I sold it through Amazon. Either way, I want to get things out there that can benefit and make things, give people some good food for thought, like this channel, but also that can then potentially benefit my family. People buy books all the time. If they buy one that I wrote, then that puts it lessens the financial burden that we still have on our family. Whatever we're still dealing with financially, that takes care of a small portion of that. So this one actually I had finished up at the end of 2015, and unfortunately it just sat on the shelf. I got distracted with other things. Unfortunately, I'm really good at doing about 95% of the work, and then that last 5% to kind of get it manifested in reality, I struggle with. I don't like stepping out of my comfort zone, or I designed the cover for this one. Not an artist or graphic designer. I don't know a lot of computer stuff. I don't like typing in passwords and figuring out codes and signing up for new stuff. It's not what I like to do. I'd rather be kind of out there in the natural world. But this one's already going to be available. The other day, I also stayed up all night working on getting my second one in proof form, so I can actually get a copy of it in hand to read through. It's just easier for me to do it this way than to look at a computer screen. And that one's a fiction story. And it's kind of like a suspense, murder, mystery, Christian fiction story, but I think that it brings a lot of good things to the table. I think it's a very interesting and fantastic read. Like when I've read it and when I've listened to it in an audio version, I'm just like, wow, this is really interesting. Definitely something I enjoyed both writing and then being able to be exposed to now. But it provides some real good thought-provoking things, whether somebody is a believer or not. So if people like kind of a good detective story, something where they can kind of really kind of be a page turner and really wonder what's going on, and that's when I was originally kind of releasing it one chapter at a time, a lot of people who were following along with it were really wanting to know the next one. They got the next piece and they're like, whoa, what? And they're waiting for the end of it. So that one should be out. I was hoping for an April release date, but I'm thinking I may be able to pull it off sooner than that. We will see. And then there's one other one I have that's already written, which is just simply called The Simple Ways of God. Some things that I've already covered in these videos are things that I've believed for many years. I believe that it's stuff that is right there in the pages of Scripture, and if we would only really look and take God at face value, we'd agree with Him on these issues. However, because of presuppositions, pride, tradition, whatever it may be, we're still just doing things not God's way. Now, some of it may fall into categories of actually being sinful. Some of it may fall into categories of just wisdom. Some of it may fall into categories, again, I don't think that God arbitrarily says, oh, I'm going to make these rules. If you do this, I'm going to curse you. If you don't, then I'll bless you. And that's just some arbitrary thing. I think that He knows the paths that are available to us on this world. And therefore, there's some of His law that just simply says, look, if you do these things, it's not going to end well for you. You reap what you sow. This is a bad path to go down. And I think that that's why He says some things, and that's why I just simply called it The Simple Ways of God. And a lot of it, I think all of it's been applied to my life over the years, and I definitely don't regret any of it. I think that it's where we need to be as a family, for me personally. I think that they're accurate things that God reveals in His Scripture. And I think it's just some good food for thought to kind of get people out of churchianity and kind of into a more faithful, intimate relationship with God, where you're trusting in Him, where you're walking in His ways. And that's been my heart for years. In fact, the whole reason that we moved 750 miles out of the city we were living in, bought some small acreage out in the middle of nowhere, and just kind of started trying to live a simple homesteading life, was that we would free ourselves up to be able to obey God. And I think that as we've made those steps and we're faithful in some of the things that He's shown us and, took them seriously and applied them, that He's shown us some more as the time's gone on. So that's just one I want to put out this year as well, because it's already written as well. Definitely don't like editing, don't like proofreading, don't like any of that. But even despite whatever I may fall short on, I think that it's so scripture, you know what I mean? It's these aren't my ideas. These are just what God says, and then I just kind of encourage people to think about it, that I think it's enough of a blessing that whatever I may fall short, it's still going to be good to put that in people's hands, in their heads, in their hearts, at least give them the opportunity to receive it or reject it. But I think after this 50 days to understanding the end times more accurately, and then after Love Like His, before I release the Simple Ways of God, I think I'm going to just write one based on a video series I did a while ago that is just simply called Why We Homestead. And for us, I'll give you a little bit of it. For us, homesteading is not the goal, but it's the path that seems to lead to the right destination. The destination we have is the goal. We have a destination eternally, but we also have a destination in this world. And as we live this life, this is our one chance. So if mom's born again and saved and on her way to heaven, and dad's born again and saved and on his way to heaven, and we're going to have, 6 children, it looks like, here in the next month, if everything goes, or month or 2, if everything goes well with the pregnancy and delivery and birth, then we're the stewards of these 6 young souls. Our greatest labor in life would be that we don't kind of show up empty-handed before the throne of God. That we would do whatever it takes, as much as dependent upon us. Obviously, it's their choice eventually, but prayerfully and carefully and intentionally labor that they would enter the kingdom. And unfortunately, a staggering number of children, you can look at Barna Research Institute has done some, or Barna Research Group has done some stuff that shows us the statistics of children from Christian homes. In fact, there's been research done that shows that kids who go to Sunday school are less likely to become believers when they grow up. And I think a lot of that is, it's just another story. It's not a literal Bible history that they think they're being exposed to, or a history of the world as recorded in the Bible. It's just some story. And a lot of things are made to seem rather foolish, like the tiny little ark with all these animals sticking out, and then they get older and somebody says, oh, well, how did Noah fit all those animals on that little boat? And they say, oh, that's a good question. Well, if you had a biblical mindset about it, and you're dealing with something 450 feet long by like 45 feet wide and 75 feet tall, you'd be like, what little boat? What are you talking about? That's an irrational, illogical, unbiblical, inaccurate statement or question to ask. How did Noah fit all those animals on a little boat? Because there was no little boat. But anyway, if the modern Christian church is doing a very poor job as a whole, if you look statistically as far as how many kids grow up to be believers, then I don't exactly want to do everything the way that they are and hope for the best, because most likely I'll be regretting things. So sometimes you got to make drastic changes. Sometimes you got to say, you know what? Fine, I like my house, but I'll sell it. Fine, I like my job, but I'll quit it. Fine, I like where I am, but I'll move 750 miles away. Fine, I'll change my life that when I rise up, when I lie down, when I walk by the way, and when I set my house, I'm free to do that, to teach my children God's ways. And that's why, we homestead. is homesteading seems like the path to get to that destination. I don't think I could do what God's really calling me to do if I have to leave the rest of my life. I don't think I'd be able to do what God's calling me to do if I don't apply some of the simple ways of God and just avoid debt and avoid other things and trust in Him in these things. So the reasons for homesteading are probably as many as the homesteaders, the definitions of what actually homesteading is. But what I'm talking about is just trying to be more self-sufficient, not for any pride or look what I can do type thing, but the fact that there's wisdom in it probably as we move forward. But moreover, the less I need to spend, the less I need to earn. And I can crank out, a lot of food at a production level as far as value that is a high quality that you could never match. I mean, if I can save some seeds year after year and continue to feed my family and just invest some time and some effort with my family doing them rather than leaving my family to go earn money to buy food from somebody else to put on the table, to me it just makes more sense. It's so cheap, it's so easy, it's so fun, it's so connected, not only from us to the real world, not the concrete jungle, but the real God-made world of plants and animals and things like that, as opposed to, concrete and buildings and automobiles and stuff like that, but also to connect as a family. So again, this one is available now on Amazon. We'll have it up and running on our Homesteaders Co-op store, hopefully within a week. I'm in the works of getting some friends helping to proofread the Love Like His one. I hope for an April release, but I'm hoping that I can actually pull it off sooner than that. I will be writing one called Why We Homestead, and just kind of laying out a lot of my thoughts and a lot of my ideas about how that type of connected lifestyle really fits into God's plan for the family. You guys have heard divide and conquer. Well, if the family's divided, the family's conquered. If you can have a more tight-knit family unit, a nuclear family, a God-designed family, then I think you're going to do a lot better. And also then the simple ways of God, which is going to be another more spiritual one. And as you can see, kind of 3 of those would be Christian books, and one of them would be just a life book more. But you can't really divorce the life that I live from the faith that I have. And a lot of things you see lived out in the life that I have is because of the faith that I have. My whole life right now is just Him. I mean, that's the reason that we have our marriage still. That's the reason we have the children that we do. That's the reason we are where we are and doing the things that we do. So just want to throw that out there as encouragement, give you guys kind of a heads up on that. Some things to look forward to. Definitely appreciate everyone who watches, who likes, who comments on this stuff. And even if you don't agree with everything I put out, thank you for being here. I'm just one man trying to sort through the faith. It's a big volume. I believe that God is right. Every man can be a liar or be deceived, and that we've got to be careful. So I'm just trying to make sure I'm seeking Him and following Him rather than a bunch of stuff man has told me. I don't want my faith to be hearsay. So appreciate you guys' time. Thank you, and be blessed. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.